Going. Now we're going to discuss the 7 habits of people who score really well on CELPIP, what they do, what kind of mental attitude they have, and what kind of activities do they follow. First thing is repetition. So this is different than practice. I'm not saying practice is not one of them. In fact, practice is strategy number 2. But repetition is a very important tool. What is the rule of habit building? The rule is simple. You continue something for 120 days. For some people, it's 90 days, but basically 90 to 120 days. You will learn habits which you can continue on for a lifetime. That's the psychological rule. The rule in English learning is repetition. So let's say you learn a grammar mistake. You learn a new word, and you're doing this through multiple channels. For grammar mistakes, maybe you're taking grammar lessons with us, you're taking grammar lessons online, or filling out online quizzes for grammar. For things like vocabulary, I still learn vocabulary based on words from movies I watch, and I learn something new every day. Or you should have vocabulary lists in front of you. And if you haven't checked out our blog, check it out. We have a list for 400 words for CELPIP. It's one of the latest blog entries, and that will teach you some good words for the CELPIP exam. So, you're doing all those things, but you repeat it. And this is what successful candidates do. So they don't just learn a word and move away from it. They would repeat it, which by that I mean they would make multiple sentences of that. If it's vocabulary, they would make multiple sentences of a mistake. If it's a grammar mistake or a sentence structure mistake, they would write multiple sentences or say those sentences multiple times to get them correct. And they won't do this for one day, they will do it for 14 to 21 days. So repetition of mistakes, pretty much, let's say at least 5 to 10 times per day. Repetition of new words, new phrases, new things you have learned 5 to 10 times a day for 2 to 3 weeks ensures that you don't only use it for your CELPIP exam, but you'll use it for the rest of your life. So this is super important. This is one quality that CELPIP students who score 9, 10, 11, 12, they follow. The second thing is practice. Now, by practice, I mean practicing in every amount of time you have. Some students, and I was like this. When I started my career, actually, I was like this. I started my career after scoring really well on the IELTS exam. Then I scored well for CELPIP. What I was doing was, when I was in the bus, I had my headphones on. I was listening to the IELTS videos. When I was in the washroom, I was listening to the IELTS videos. Like every single time that I was free, I made sure I was doing something. If something was cooking in the microwave, I was working. So I was making sure every amount of my time was occupied in learning. And yes, I did have time for enjoyment, but the time I dedicated to study, I made sure not a minute or a second was wasted on anything else. So that's important. Practice nonstop. Kill yourself with practice. I mean, look, this is gonna be helpful for your immigration and your life. So why not do it? Just do it. The third thing is they don't forget the basics. I have seen people who fail CELPIP over and over again. They're the ones who get really overconfident. So there's a way, right? Firstly, you have to practice, you have to do repetition, you have to go online, check multiple resources. If you're taking our course, you're in good hands. You're with our teachers, you're in good hands. We're going to constantly guide you. If you're on your own, make sure you follow the basics. By that I mean, of course, repetition and practice. Then learning strategies, for example, we have discussed on this channel how important brainstorming is. So you have to brainstorm 2 to 3 minutes, let's say in writing, before you start writing. And that means developing the points that you're going to use in your body paragraphs. Now, students who think they're too advanced, they just go ahead and start writing. They don't make a skeleton. But I can tell you, everybody who scores 9, 10 or more, they always make an outline before they start writing. I do it up to now. After almost 2 decades of teaching, I still make outlines. And that's because we stick to the basics. When it comes to speaking practice, reading or listening practice, using multiple resources online or practicing at home is important. And again, if you're thinking you're overconfident, you're just going to study the day before the exam, you're going to be one of those people who opens up a CELPIP exam and emails me the day before the exam, hey, I got a few hours left. Tomorrow's my exam. I'm really stressed out. What do I do? Okay, so please don't do that. Stick to the basics. Learn in detail. Okay. The fourth thing is planning. Now, with planning, there's multiple things that come with planning. One is, for example, a way you can make a great plan is by following our templates for writing and speaking. You can search it on our blog, on our YouTube channel. By the way, the link for the blog is in the description, and we have multiple videos on templates. So, for example, that is one thing for planning. Like, how do you plan for good words, effective vocabulary, And if you are starting to write and you exceed the word limit, or you're exceeding the time limit when you're speaking, you're not finishing on time, what is your plan? What is your strategy to fix those things? Are you gonna write less paragraphs? Are you gonna plan to finish speaking 5 to 10 seconds before the time stops? What is your plan in reading if you're failing part 4? So when it comes to academic words, you're failing part 4. What is your plan for the next 10 days before your exam? Are you going to learn from an academic vocab word list? That would be a good idea. Or if you don't have any plan, then of course that will fail. In listening, are you having a hard time understanding part 4 where there's a debate usually going on? If that's the case, why don't you listen to YouTube videos? Let's make a plan. Let's listen to 2 debate videos on YouTube every day so you can get better at debates and listening to debates. So make a plan on whatever your weakness is or whatever your learning strategy is. People who do not make a plan obviously do not get the score, and this is for anything in life. I mean, it's common sense, but unfortunately, a lot of people don't do it, and those people don't pass the exam. The next thing that high scorers do is they understand the examiner marking. I posted a very detailed article on our blog recently. Check it out, go to our blog. The link is in the description. It tells you how CELPIP examiners mark, and if you're watching this video at a later date, the blog post might be posted back. Just search on the blog CELPIP examiner marking. Now this post will explain how they mark, and you will get a lot of info from that. But understanding that will help you prepare accordingly at home. You will never know what you're targeting in practice if you don't know how the examiners mark. So you can check our blog post, check our YouTube videos on how examiners mark. Basically, if you do follow our templates and strategies, you would know how examiners mark and you would prepare accordingly. At the same time, there is on the CELPIP website, celpip.ca, the examiner marking score, the criteria. It's also in our CELPIP course. We show that how points are given when you score a 9, a 7, and so on. Learn that and study that. You will basically see that if you want to score more than 9 in reading and listening, just get the right answers. That's simple, right? But for speaking and writing, sorry, I meant reading and listening, by the way. For speaking and writing, you want to make sure you make no mistakes. Okay, 9 basically means perfection. You can say 2 grammar mistakes only, but that's basically nothing, right? So 0 grammar mistakes. Assume that amazing vocabulary, range of sentences, expressions, descriptions, correct answer, finish on time with the right words. Obviously, these things are what examiners are looking for. So try to understand that examiner marking criteria, so whatever you practice at home would be based on the examiner marking criteria. Now, these students who are scoring great marks, they focus on that. They think of what the examiners would want and cater their writing style or speaking style according to those requirements. The next thing is the assignments. So these students who are gonna score 9 or more, they give themselves a lot of assignments. For example, it could be that in the next 10 days, I gotta learn 100 words. In the next 2 weeks, I gotta complete at least 5 speaking tests, 5 total mock tests, and so on. It's very similar to the planning stage, but with a plan, it's the thing you'd think about is how do I reach this level? And you can have a very short plan, it could be a few hours of plan. But with many assignments, it's basically increasing the amount of workload you have, doing multiple tests and giving yourself a time limit for that and repeating all these steps again and again. If you have 5 mock tests, 10 mock tests that you have purchased, you do them and then you do them again. And if that gets too easy, you go online, look for other resources. You will find a lot of resources on our blog. We do have some free practice tests there, by the way. On our course, we have a lot of tests, and on this YouTube channel, you have a lot of videos as well. So giving yourselves multiple assignments to do will also constantly improve you, and that is exactly what people who score more do. Another important thing, and I get this question a lot, when should I book my exam? Or I have this level, I think I can book my exam this time, when should I book it? People who score more always want to delay the exam. And I understand you sometimes have work permit deadlines, you have other deadlines, but if you want to score more, you want to make sure you have enough time for preparation and you do the exam when you're confident that you're going to get 10, 11, 12, not even 9. You consider perfection and then you go and book the exam. Because if you're not confident and you book it, it doesn't really make too much sense, right? You're going to pay $350 and you 50% know in your mind you're going to fail. Most likely that's what's going to happen. So giving yourself enough time is important. It's better not to rebook the exam and waste money lots of times. unless you feel confident. So people who deliver great marks make sure they have ample time for preparation. The final thing is assessment. Students, of course, again, these things are things that need to be, I would say it's something that should be understood. I shouldn't be even making this video, but it's very often missed by students, and that's why I have to point all these things out. So this is the last thing, the assessment. Assessment of yourself is something you need to do. Now, if you don't want to do it yourself, and I don't recommend you do it because you haven't been teachers, you haven't marked the exams, it's better to hire a teacher or check out our course. It's always in the description, by the way. The course teaches you how to self-assess yourself, and you don't need to have a teacher for that. You can assess yourself that way. But if you don't want to pay for any resource, or you don't want to spend too much money, you can check out our YouTube videos. I have explained several ways how examiners would mark, how you can do a better version, and how to avoid the weaker versions of your writing and speaking. So with that, you will get an understanding. But also, it's simple, right? If you want to score 10, 9, 11, these kind of marks, you need to have no mistakes. You need to have almost perfect English. You need to speak similar to a native speaker. And I don't mean in terms of accent. It's more like in terms of expressions and emphasis, your volume fluctuation and fluency, and avoiding fillers, right? So you can record yourself, listen to yourself, assess yourself. Do you feel like you talk like them? When you write, look at your writing. You would obviously be able to know if it looks academic. If you have read newspapers or academic writings or articles, you would be able to see what the difference is. If you download the app Grammarly and type anything on your computer, you would see the mistakes shown by Grammarly. You would see spelling mistakes as well. You would see word limit as well. Assess yourself. Did you do the right amount of words? Did you convey the idea of the question? Did you do good words? Or are you making a lot of grammar mistakes? Look at the time. Did you finish on time? Same thing for speaking, right? Reading and listening, you have the answers. A lot of times people just look at the answers and they're like, oh, this is correct, this is incorrect. Okay, great, let's move on to the next test. Wait a second, assess yourself. Why were the wrong answers wrong? Let's go back and see what you could have done differently, right? These things are important for you to build yourself and assess yourself so you can build on your mistakes and improve and be better for the next time. So guys, these are all the habits that people who score really good marks in CELPIP always possess and deliver time and time again. I've seen this consistently in people who follow these tricks and they do great in the exam. The contrary, again, things like people who feel overconfident and don't practice, people who think that templates are not important, people who think that they can just go in the exam without really having a proper assessment, they get shocked in the exam. They realize they were underprepared, and the actual exam is way more difficult than what they initially thought it was. I always say it's not just an English exam. It is like an IQ test with an English component. So you really need to be sharp and ready before you go in this exam. And I wish you the best of luck. Make sure you follow these tips and tricks so you can do better in your next attempt. Thank you very much. Take care.